The Galactic Fringe. In the shadow of the aliens, the ninth colony, known as the Fringe World, was humanity's last known outpost at the edge of the galaxy. The planet was a cold, wind-blasted wasteland where a few generations of settlers had tried to cling to life. Everything was about survival. Energy domes, defense walls, and automated farming systems kept the people alive. The sky above was eternally stormy, with violet-blue lightning splitting the horizon like angry veins. Memories of Earth were little more than myths, buried in dusty archives or reflected in the eyes of the elderly. People lived off scraps of history, but the future seemed long lost. The governing council kept order, but fear had made a home in every corner. Life hung by a thread and the darkness was closing in. 3 months ago, the anomalies began. A freak storm too strong to be natural disabled the northern defense grid, and something was seen entering the atmosphere. Recon drones were dispatched, but by the time they arrived, only scorched earth remained. The council called it a technical malfunction, but the people grew restless. Not long after, workers from Sector 4 began disappearing without a trace. Their homes stood untouched, their equipment still active, no signs of struggle, just silence. Surveillance footage showed nothing but strange shadows, faint noises, and static interference. The Defense Command quietly launched an investigation. Something had arrived, and no one knew what. Among the colony's elders, stories had long circulated about the outsiders. According to myth, these beings came from the far darkness beyond the stars and had watched humanity since ancient times. They didn't attack directly, they whispered, reached out, and vanished. The council dismissed these tales as superstition, but among the younger generation, belief was spreading. Tasha Rell, the colony's lead biologist, discovered unknown DNA on the jacket of a missing researcher note matched to any Earth-origin species. The sample was mutating at a microscopic level and showed signs of integrating with the host. This wasn't just a survival issue anymore, it was a war, and humanity was no longer alone. Vela, the colony's military commander, ordered heightened alert across all sectors. New security zones were created, patrol drones doubled, and every entrance was reinforced. Tension gripped the population, especially after dozens reported vivid nightmares, whispers in the walls, and fleeting shapes behind windows. One recon unit uncovered an old maintenance tunnel beneath the colony, completely unmapped and sealed with an unknown material, blowtorches, acid plasma. Nothing could open it. Command sealed the area, but rumors spread fast. The aliens weren't arriving, they were awakening. Some whispered they had always been here, and fear took root deeper than ever. Tasha Rell was the first to raise the alarm within the council, presenting the alien DNA findings with unshakable urgency. "This is not contamination," she said, voice steady in a room full of skeptics. "This is integration." Her words sparked internal debates, but they were quickly buried under bureaucratic hesitation and fear of panic. Meanwhile, the disappearances continued, and now entire research teams were vanishing overnight. The security feeds showed little, sometimes just distorted shapes, sometimes nothing at all. But the silence in their absence was louder than any explosion. The people began to murmur of the touched, those who had made contact and returned. Different. No one could confirm it, but everyone felt it. Vela responded with force. Military patrols were tripled, and movement between zones required biometric clearance. Curfews were enforced. Drones circled overhead in tighter formations, their red lights sweeping through the dusk like searching eyes. Still, it wasn't enough. One night, an explosion rocked the central reactor facility. Power systems failed, plunging half the colony into darkness. Initial reports suggested an external attack, but the evidence pointed inward. Someone had sabotaged the reactor from within. And if that was true, then the threat wasn't just outside the dome, it had already entered. The aftermath was chaos. Accusations flew like shrapnel. Workers turned on supervisors, neighbors distrusted each other, and even the soldiers grew wary of their own units. The council declared a state of emergency and began rooting out suspects, those who had disappeared and returned, those with gaps in their logs, those who seemed off. But fear doesn't reason, and soon, the line between suspicion and paranoia vanished. Tasha received a coded signal during this time, an encrypted pulse from a relay tower deep in Sector 7. It was impossible. That station had been abandoned weeks ago, and yet the signal carried a biological signature, one of the missing scientists. Alive against orders. Tasha led a small team beyond the inner sectors into the outer ring where the abandoned tower loomed. The dust storms were thick, but the signal pulsed stronger with each step. Inside the station they found a man, Gale Myron, seated in perfect stillness, surrounded by strange, organic growths. His eyes glowed faintly. He spoke in whispers, not just with his mouth but somehow inside their heads. He claimed the outsiders were not invaders, they were returning. They had once been human, or something near it, and now they sought reconnection, rebirth. The colony wasn't a target, it was a seedbed. The escort team that returned with Tasha was silent, shaken by what they had seen. Gale was brought back under strict quarantine, but not before the growth on his skin began to spread to the examination equipment itself. It was alive, responding to sound, heat, and thought. The medical labs were baffled. The council, more frightened than ever, denied the discovery and isolated the team. Tasha, confined to her quarters, spent sleepless nights reviewing Gale's data. His cellular structure had changed. He was no longer fully human. And yet, he was calm, peaceful, as if he had been freed. Rumors exploded across the colony. Some believed Gale had become a weapon, others that he was a prophet. Security tried to contain the unrest, but faith and fear moved faster than armed patrols. Whispers spoke of the touched walking among them, unseen and unnoticed, their thoughts no longer their own. Then came the second explosion, this time in the data core. Years of archives, research, and colonial records were lost. Again, signs pointed to sabotage from within. Vela tightened control even further, but every lockdown only deepened the division. There were no longer just colonists. There were two kinds of people, those who believed and those who resisted. A quiet purge began. Anyone suspected of contact with the outsiders disappeared, some arrested, others simply gone by morning. Tasha, once respected, became a liability, but she wasn't alone. Darvin, Vela's own aide and longtime friend of Tasha, revealed a secret of his own. He had also heard the whispers. He didn't resist them. He followed them. He claimed that the outsiders didn't want to conquer the colony, they wanted to merge with it, to evolve with humanity. Tasha, torn between science and survival, agreed to follow him into the tunnels beneath the colony. If the truth lay anywhere, it was in the dark. The tunnels were ancient, some natural, others shaped by hands no longer human. Deep below the colony they found a nest, but not of monsters. Bioluminescent walls pulsed with warmth. Inside, hybrid beings moved slowly, calmly, part human, part something else. They welcomed her, not with words but with presence. She felt their memories like waves, their long exile, the silence of the stars, the loneliness of intelligence with no form to return to. They had once been like humans, now they had come home, but not all would survive the transition. Only those who accepted it. Tasha returned to the surface, changed not physically, but in resolve. She had seen the truth and knew that war would be the end of everything. She demanded an audience with the council, offering them a chance to understand, to communicate. Vela refused. He declared martial law and moved to eliminate the nest. A final order was given: annihilate everything beneath the colony. But Darvin intervened, revealing that a third of the security force had already defected. They believed in the future Tasha had seen. The fighting was brief but brutal. Friend turned on friend, machines were turned against their makers, and the colony's halls burned with the heat of civil war. In the end, the council fell not with glory, but with silence. Vela vanished in the chaos, his final transmission cut off mid-sentence. The colony split in two. One half stayed behind with Tasha and the hybrids, forming a new society. The others departed, establishing a second settlement far across the planet, human, untouched, and fiercely independent. In the months that followed, change accelerated. The hybrids taught Tasha's people how to communicate in thought, how to heal with intention, how to shape technology not with metal, but with will. The world responded. The storms weakened, the ground softened. The planet, once hostile, began to awaken as if recognizing its new children. Old fears faded, replaced by wonder and purpose. The Fringe was no longer a dead end. It was a beginning. They called themselves the Convergence, not human, not alien, something between, and perhaps beyond. Tasha recorded everything, but she no longer sought Earth's approval. The Earth was gone, and so was the past. A new civilization had been born, not from conquest, but from choice. And far above them, in the dark between stars, something else was watching, something waiting to see if humanity had finally learned to evolve.